I've decided to do my final project in relation to Lesson 4, the hero's journey, more specifically, I guess the character type of the hero. In this particular case, I'm going to be doing my project on Roland Deschain. He is the main character in the Dark Tower graphic novel series, as well as the book series. Um, I really enjoyed kind of delving into his character. So what I've done is I picked up a few other graphic novels from the series, and I'll be kind of going through them, going over different character points and how he develops into his role as an anti-hero and the decisions that he makes. These comics, again, are written by, what is it, Robin Firth, Peter David, and illustrated by Jay Lee and Richard Eisenoff. So let's get started. The last comic, called The Gunslinger Born, is what I did for Lesson 4. This one is titled The Long Road Home and takes place obviously right after the initial comic. At the end of the last one, there are two major deaths that happen. One is going to be that of the major enemy. The other is actually going to be that of Susan Delgado, who is killed by I guess the villains in the original, the first graphic novel, and Roland is unable to save her. The beginning of this one starts out with him grief-stricken, and what happens is that he succumbs to a magical presence called Merlin's Rainbow, or in this particular case, Merlin's Grapefruit, where it attacks his mind due to him being stricken by grief, and it leaves him incapacitated with his friends at this particular point. So while Roland is addicted to this magical orb, he's in a trance, and that part of this graphic novel goes through that, and during that time frame, his friends are being chased, or his companions are being chased by Clay Reynolds, who is one of the surviving bad guys from the first graphic novel. So these are set up in a comic book series, so as this continues, this comic book will particularly end, and it's going to go to the next one in the series, which is still considered The Long Road Home. I always like starting off each comic book in this graphic novel series, 205, as you can see, with the cover. I always like the cover art. In this particular comic, this one's a little bit more interesting. You've got Roland in his trance. I'm going to get into kind of the details on his characteristics and what he struggles with internally or within this orb that he's been sucked into, versus externally, which is what his friends are having to face while he's working out kind of his own mind. So in this particular comic, we're looking at Roland's, I guess, internal struggle within Merlin's Grapefruit. He comes to face really the main enemy from, I guess, a majority of the entire novel series as well as the comics, who is Martine, or the Man in Black. Here he finds out that really a lot of what's happened has been part of Roland's will, but mostly the will of Martine, where Roland is accused of being more of a warmonger than a hero, which actually comes to light a lot throughout the novels and the graphic novels. In the third comic of the series, we have a majority of it taking place within Merlin's Grapefruit, or really within Roland's mind. And you can notice that by kind of like the pinkish background. Now this one's really interesting. Roland meets another character here who he doesn't know, who's pictured down here at the bottom. He begins kind of poking fun at him, calling him an old man. At which point this man states, or I guess a crow states, that that man is actually the future Roland, which Roland denies, saying that this man has no friends or no circle of friends, which is called a quartet in this particular series, calling him a sad old man, and he believes that this crow, who is the man in black, or Martine, as previously discussed, is trying to convince him that this is who he's going to be, which in actuality, having read through this and knowing the future, that is who Roland becomes. So really you can see his initial character denying who his future self is. Just he doesn't believe that he would be a friendless individual who's kind of a beaten, battered old man. Also, actually, in this same scene, Martine says the reason that he has no friends is that, oh, you had them, but they all lie dead, and their blood is on your hands. Know you why 'tis called a murder of crows, because sometimes the flock will kill the dying crow in its midst. No mercy for the weak. They were all weak, Roland. Your quartet, or group of friends, was your flock, and you murdered them one by one. So in this case, really you get a future aspect of what happens to Roland's friends. The specifics of murder I'm not going to get into because it's questionable. In this case, his friends come into the grapefruit, or one of his friends, Elaine, comes in to save him, at which case they are being a true friend to Roland and are trying to save him, which Elaine is able to pull him out of the grapefruit, but with that he comes back not necessarily normal. So he's able to take action, but he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing. So taking a break from the graphic novels that I selected for the project, I really want to discuss Roland Deschain and I guess the first graphic novel, as well as where we're currently at within The Long Road Home. So really the anti-hero is defined as a main character, someone who is flawed in some way that displays less than admirable qualities. Also, in terms of a tragic hero, there's going to be a tragic flaw. So in this particular case, he's flawed. In the first graphic novel, Roland Deschain has a falcon that he uses as his weapon. It's his best friend. It grew up with him. It's his companion, throughout his young life. He sends the falcon to his death, or I'm sorry, the hawk. It's one of the other hawk or falcon. He sends it to its death in the final battle with his teacher in the original graphic novel, The Gunslinger Born. Now, his friend tells him that, well, so there's two major flaws that help develop the character of Roland Deschain. In the first graphic novel, he has a hawk that is his companion as a young, or I guess a mentee when it comes to becoming a gunslinger. In his final battle with his trainer, or I guess his master, Court, he allows his hawk to die to win the battle. This is the first time that Roland has let a companion of his die to meet the end. And with this, it's the first time you see that he's willing to kill his friends or his companions, and sees them nothing more as a means to an end. So this is a classic tradition of an anti-hero. The second one that I'd like to discuss, or the second flaw, is that of Susan Delgado and her death at the end of The Gunslinger Born and the beginning of The Long Road Home. This is the first person in his life that he's loved or had strong affection for that has died because he has not been able to save that individual. Now, later, which unfortunately won't be covered in this, his mother is killed with Roland's own guns. So with these particular situations, really we see the flaw of Roland being able to not necessarily trust the other characters, but trust himself emotionally with the other characters and coming and just getting close to them. So both of these particular instances, or these particular types of flaws, are really what defines Roland throughout his life. We see this happen later in the future in terms of different situations, and really he keeps people at a distance for the most part throughout the graphic novel series and the novel series itself. So the remainder of the fourth comic in the series, Roland faces the Crimson King, who is the main character throughout the entire Dark Tower series. He's Roland's arch nemesis, but he's facing him here as a young man within the Grapefruit. During this time, he's meeting, or Roland and the Crimson King are meeting for the first time, where they kind of just have a conversation. And throughout this, the Crimson King is trying to convince Roland to abandon his journey to look for the Dark Tower, or to become a gunslinger. So in the final comic book of the series, Roland and the Crimson King discuss really the past, their bloodlines, and the Crimson King is trying to convince Roland to join him or die. Now, with that, the Crimson King threatens to torture Roland. Obviously, if he doesn't join, Roland at that point states that he will never join him, that the Crimson King is going to enjoy torturing Roland because Roland says, quote, "Kill me because that is the only way you'll stop me from killing you." After this, Roland is saved by one of his friends and pulled back from Merlin's grapefruit, or this orb, as you can see here. He stares right back into it after the fact. There's some description in here in regards to kind of narration that Roland doesn't necessarily look the same. So right here it says, "The thing is, it's hard to say whether the wooden-faced, glassy-eyed creature in front of us has much of Roland left in him." Just stating how much he's changed after going into the sphere, what he's learned. Even throughout the remainder of the comic, when they return to Inworld, to their home, Roland shows that he's changed. His friends look at him differently. So with what he's learned from the Crimson King, and really just everything that happened within the original graphic novel, which was The Gunslinger Born, and The Long Road Home, it builds him as kind of the beginning character of who you see in the later graphic novels in the actual novel series. So I want to end this video. I know I've got like a final reflection paper that I want to add, but I just want to say that I really enjoyed this class, and really just learning a lot more about comics, how they began, the different styles, how they're depicted. Just there's so much to them that I didn't know. One thing that always strikes me with any comic is just the artwork in it. I'm a huge fan of how different art's done in that type of medium. I'm gonna unfortunately have to say that I do like Marvel movies. They are movies. They don't hold anything up to the books, or the comic books. But I do have a nice collection started now, and I actually have boxes of comic books that are stored away that I'm probably going to start digging through soon. I've got a whole bunch of X-Men comics, things like that, but really I just love a good hero's tale. I'm going to try and find some more that have the anti-hero in them, something that has kind of like your typical hero's tale. I believe it's a monomyth is, I believe, what it is. But anyway, yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad I was able to go over a comic that I really enjoyed in this class, so thank you.